Hi. Yep, I'm Daniel, and that's Foster. So just so we know, we mostly been artists most of our lives. He definitely has. I started probably more seriously, probably like when I was around his age, probably. Um, but I've always meddled with stuff, so um, it's been pretty interesting. For me, it took a long time to like kind of figure out what I was going to do and how I had any kind of commentary built into my work, because you just think, well, you know, you want to, you just make, you just start trying to get good at whatever you're trying to do. Like when I was doing metal sculpture, mostly in the beginning, because I started like with wood and carving and stone and stuff, and then I'd switch to metal because I was into welding, and so then it just took me a while to kind of like figure all that stuff out, and then you're almost preoccupied with just trying to learn how to make something look or turn out how you want it to look. So um, eventually I got to the point where I had some kind of like a way to incorporate things that seemed to bother me or stuff I wanted to say about like society and whatever, right? So then the commentary kind of came in, and it seems like with Foz, he just, I don't know, it was just already made, built in, from the beginning. So because he's always had just a natural kind of knack to making stuff that's just like have meaning, and it's a trip. So, you know, um, he hasn't really gotten that much into sculpture because he helps me with sculpture, but he's not really done anything on his own particularly. Yeah. For what reason? You just haven't felt like it, or it's like,
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's skill issue.
oh really? Yeah, I just thought it was. I think. Oh, yeah. It's. I think part of it too is it's hard to make a sculpture have like a lot of commentary because it's just like this form, right? And you're kind of like, you know, it's easy to make it have movement or some kind of feeling, but it's kind of hard to like say a lot with it without, you know, the surface being like changed, like painted or whatever. So, which I've been getting into with sculpture because, so maybe that's another reason that it's just like,
Yeah.
like a inert thing that's, I mean, it's nice, but so I don't know. Does anybody have any questions about anything? We could just kind of like talk back and forth if you have like,
Well, which one? Okay, which ones are yours and which ones are Foster's? First off, I feel like I could see a couple of different
yeah,
styles here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I got those three, and then the black and white one, and then those two in this
the
one.
smaller pieces,
So
okay. And the drawings, gotcha.
yep.
Yeah. 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 And then some of the stuff, some of his stuff is about his commentary about like nuclear power and stuff because he was into, um, he's very into energy and like, what would you say?
Just like history of like nuclear power and I don't know stuff like that, and like power production.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I ended up going with the career because I do like line work now, so sort of similar, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's mostly what those outer two ones are about. Um, yeah,
They're based on different reactor systems.
yeah,
Um, and he wanted to build one that was on the one on the right that looked like, that's the one, right?
yeah.
That you wanted to build.
Those
The
are,
nuclear reactor you're gonna build so long.
yeah,
I'm so glad when he was like, never mind.
yeah,
For a long time you were talking about it.
yeah.
And why did you change your mind?
I don't know. Safety issue. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some people you hear about people. This one guy was building a reactor, and he had all kinds of problems, health problems from it.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
Radiation.
Well, I think
yeah,
it's illegal to build like an actual one.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So
But it was that one?
yeah,
Yeah.
the one on the right. The one on the right is more of like a science project that people do. Um, it doesn't have any like I guess radioactive like elements that you would put into it. Um, it's more of like a arcing device, I guess. I don't know, but it's like pretty crude, rudimentary.
So it uses magnetic fields to create pressure and cause a arc or
It's
something?
like those little balls that have little plasma. You put your hand on it. It's sort of like that, but like scaled up, basically.
Which is safer in some ways.
And then the one on the left was like that one. I was just drew that. It's just a modern reactor that like the United States and France uses. Yeah.
Less safe. And you use cores, right? Like
Yeah,
they use
that one is,
uranium cores.
but they've been working on them for a while. Yeah.
This is a question for either of you. What's the connection between your art and street art or public art, and like what are those influences?
We're both interested in how the street art and how that whole way to communicate. Do you want to say something first or whatever?
Yeah. So like I've always been like super interested with like graffiti and like just kind of like tags and stuff. That's where I get some inspiration from. And it kind of works its way into my work a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the edginess of, because it's kind of a cross for me between like street art and pop art, like what like Lichtenstein was doing in the old days, and Andy Warhol, kind of how they would use like real things, advertising kind of logos or whatever. And I really love logos, and like that kind of like logos are just really cool, man, because they can say a lot without really having to be anything. Oh, I can't really see me. I'm blocking you out.
Like a tag.
Yeah, and it's like a commercial tag, right? So, but then I like the other part about street art because you could say whatever you want. You don't really have to worry about, like, they're not concerned about their customer base or whatever. I mean, I guess maybe they are, but that's why they get more, adventurous of where they tag things or whatever. But we're always talking about how like we see things and how we would like change it to, they would be like commercial things, or and it would just some funny thing would come up because we always see things, however, where our minds work, and it's just like, wow, you could just make this and it would be really funny, It's like, so then you just have this urge, like all of a sudden you're like, this is, man, you like have butterflies, like I don't really want to go do that, But then it's like, yeah, no, probably not, because it's just like, because you're defacing a business, and it's just like that's like not that cool, right?
Yeah.
And billboards too. It's like, and I have a friend that works, and he's kind of high up in the billboard company. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that, but it's like, it's tempting because I don't know, you just see stuff, and it's just like
they just put up funny stuff,
and it doesn't take much to change it, and like, so I think I like that idea about advertising and trying to mix things together. I mean, some of my other work has more things like, because I like to like try and recreate like a scene of like an alley scene or whatever on one panel that has like a lot of stuff going on, and maybe different people tag it or whatever, but it's all my stuff, and they all the tags kind of somehow relate to like the overall piece. There's one on my website, the main, when you go to the first page that I made for a client in California, and it was like mostly about their son, because they had bought this piece for their son. It's like, I think he was like 12 or something, and I used kind of some stuff that had to do with him, but then there was a lot of stuff going on because it was right during not too long after 2020, so there was all kinds of like social stuff going on. So it's just filled with stuff, and I try to make it look like different people did whatever they want. It's just like this thing, right? But it has this kind of like what do you call a storyline? I forget. Narrative. That's a good one. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I have a hard time finding things. So, but
What about in that one? Will you tell us about the narratives in that piece right there that relate to
street art? Yeah. So I saw this post about, that was a long time ago. So I saw two posts at the same time. So that bat came from, it was basically had one eye, and it's just like how it is. But then, so Basquiat had painted the painting like that was this yellow, and it had like this bat. It was like, because he used to just watch like TV was on and everything. So like Batman and Robin would come on, and so because this is during the 80s, right? So, and he had all these books and radio. So anything that came into his mind, he's just like putting down on whatever. So because he always thought you should have source material of some kind, even books or whatever. And so anyway, I just really thought that was the iconicness of that, and how it had like one eye, and I was like, man, that's just perfect for like what I do with my iBox series. So I oh, and then not too far down, it was on Instagram, and I saw this guy, this artist named Retna. He's just kind of crazy, and he doesn't really, I don't know. Anyway, he had mentioned some stuff about Banksy, and he was saying he called him like Robin Hood, because I think of him as Robin Hood, isn't, because he kind of like will take a painting out of he'll buy a painting from a secondhand store and then paint some stuff on it and just kind of stick it back in there, and then now it's worth like, people like run over themselves to try and get it. And so then he basically just gives money to people, right? He just kind of funnels it from rich people down to the other people, right? He puts it on their buildings. It's like, that part's interesting. So, but anyway, like, the Black, it says Black right there. So Black Larat he was a graffiti artist in the 60s and 70s. He started doing like stencils and stuff from like the beginning. He was like one of the first people to do it. And he did rats and pretty much everything that like Banksy kind of does, like the thing with the wings, it's like a police officer. I don't know if you've seen any of Banksy's work. He has this like this soldier, and then anyway, so like I put that in there because like he started the whole movement, right? And then Banksy's just like way accelerated, and so that's why I put that, because like he lives there and he's kind of like looking up at like Robin, Hood or Robin, and this is Batman and Robin because it talks about robbing banks, it's like. So, and Banks is like kind of like Banksy, because it has kind of a play on his name, and there's no face because, nobody knows who he is supposedly. And then this Julian Opar dude, that's why I put his name over here, because I noticed that it's like, I was gonna do, it was a smiley face with like an X and an O for the eyes and stuff, and then I painted over it because I was like, I didn't really like the way it looked, so then I painted it white, so that usually you do like a white undercoat, so whatever color really pops if you're gonna paint. But then after I saw that, I was, wow, man, I like that. That's pretty cool, And then I was like, but there's somebody that's already doing that. So like, who is that? So I had to try and figure it out. So I wrote his name there just because people go, oh, you're like copying this person, I was like, and it's like, because if you give people credit, then it's like, but anyway, I just didn't want to change it after that. So then that's why the rat is looking at him like, like, what the hell, It's like, because that represents Black Rat, because he was doing that. Anyway, so it's stuff like that, right? So that's, and then how like this is like the Robin from the 1960s show, and he's like got these little skinny legs. Like those guys, he don't have to do anything to anybody, right? It's like, but that's why I made him look like this like wimpy looking dude. But then you see it's like, it looks like he's kind of muscly and stuff, but it's just like the fake kind of. So I wanted him to look like a little skinny kid, and then yeah, that's CC. That just means yes, man of that or whatever, So that it was one of the episodes, and he's like, CC Batman, what next? Because they kind of incorporate other language, So that just stuck with me like my whole life, So I wanted to put that on there because it was just so weird, And I kind of want to like break things up so that it has more, interest for whoever, right? And then that I just put a cloud around it because to me it just looks like it's Celia, which is her name, and I just did it when she was hanging out one day when I was working, and I'm like, man, it's like, so I just made like a cloud around it and like, so that it was like, so anyway, things like that thing, when he was going to lineman school, that fist with the electric back part came kind of, I designed that when he was going to that, because I was like, man, I just had this, I wanted to make like a logo that had to do with like electrical, what do you call it?
Work.
Cert work, yeah.
Yeah.
Not like electronics, but like, power and power plants and stuff like that. So,
right.
Yeah.
And the original logo for, I think it's the Union. I don't know which union it is, but it's like a fist holding a lightning bolt, and so he kind of came up with that.
And that's more like your energy, is going into something, So it's like, so that's kind of a self empowering thing, I think. But still, I do different versions of that. And then and even like with logos and signs, that back there was like, I just like I see crosswalk signs and it's like, ah, man, it's like people are always in a hurry because they need to get to work and do whatever they need to do, and it's just like there's like a prisoner to their own like fixes, vices of like if it's whatever it may be, But I just thought it was interesting, and then the little one with whoever that is, I can't think. Yeah, Colonel Sanders. I can't think. So that's about the patriarchy and how the white male is in control forever, and like it's kind of, and then it also kind of talks about the New Year's when you have the little baby takes over from the old person and he kind of hands them the cloth, whatever they hand them, I don't know, something. New Year's they used to have that, but basically it's like time for you to go, and like youth can come in and like more diverse, and not just a white woman, but like just mix it up a little bit. It's like came from like our studio was presently in our old building that my family's had. They built in the 50s, and it was a TV store, so they used to repair TVs and like sell TVs and stuff. So from like 1951 until whenever, 95 when I closed, but because they retired, it wasn't as fun anymore. So those are like little console televisions, right? That's kind of what I modeled. Those are the first series of those.
Like I got a lot of inspiration from like Basquiat and other like pop artists, and I really like kind of like abstract, abstract art, and so I started just trying to like make just kind of like a figure almost, and then I was kind of starting to think about making like a portrait or something, and so I did these all pretty much at the same time. They're just kind of sketches.
Well, and these two are both kind of inspired by Basquiat, right? But
yeah.
But that one's yours.
Definitely that one.
And that one's Daniel.
Yeah.
Because they both have the crown, but it's like the Basquiat crown, yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, the idea behind it was like, so like reading and stuff, and like, I don't know, I just, like growing up, I wasn't super good at reading and stuff, and so I felt like I had like a disadvantage almost. And so I kind of built the artwork around like the difficulty is on, my side now. So like everyone is going to be struggling to try and figure it out, but and typically it doesn't really have a meaning, but I leave it up to people to try and figure it out and stuff, So that's basically the thought behind it, yeah.
Because to you, regular writing looked like that or whatever, right? So
yeah, it was like, I don't know, just, difficulty. And so it's just like a taste, I guess.
Right, kind of a typical reader.
For everybody for attending.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you guys.
Right on. Thank you guys.